But moving forward, Nerdwallet out with a beat on estimates in its latest quarter as the personal finance company exceeded its own revenue and adjusted EBITDA guidance in the fourth quarter. So what does this all spell out for Nerdwallet and the state of the consumer? Well, for that, we've got Tim Chen, Nerdwallet founder and CEO, here to discuss. Tim, thanks so much for taking the time here with us today. If there's anything that you can extrapolate from your earnings and apply to the state of the consumer right now, what would it be?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Nerdwallet empowers consumers and small businesses to make financial decisions with confidence. And, I think the state of the consumer feels like a tale of two cities, right? So we're seeing continued strength relative to historical norms in the prime and super prime segments, and definitely some credit deterioration in the near prime and subprime space. That being said, Nerdwallet's a diversified business. Our trusted brand and content cuts across many different verticals. So we see inverse correlations between many of our verticals, and we're able to weather the macroeconomic conditions quite well and grow throughout the fourth quarter.
Tim, Brian here. Good to see you here. Your business is so very reliant on searches on the internet, SEO, various plumbing on the internet. How will what Google is doing in terms of changing how it approaches search, and then ultimately what Microsoft is doing with ChatGPT, how does that change what you do and how you plan your business?
Yeah, so I think we still have a lot to learn in terms of generative AI. There's going to be obvious benefits, such as using generative AI to help us internally with our productivity, both in terms of our content team and our engineering team. But I think in terms of search engines, it's important to step back and think about what consumers are trying to do, right? So sometimes you go to a search engine for a quick factual answer. So like, what's the weather? Today's search engines can return a result quite quickly, and in the search engine itself. For more nuanced answers, like, what personal loan should I get given my credit score is a 680 and I live in Wisconsin, right? There's often subjectivity involved and more data needed. And that's why you seek out a brand you can trust and turn to search if you don't have that go-to. So it's very critical that, a marketplace, for example, has real-time data on qualifications and rates to really serve that kind of a query. And then the more futuristic part, I think generative AIs can really extend what search can do. So there's not a good website out there for a lot of different things. I talked on the earnings call yesterday afternoon about how if I want a rap song about a 529 plan, no one has had the commercial incentive to create that web page, so it doesn't exist, right? And so I think that's where you're going to get a much better answer from a generative AI than from any existing expert or website or internet company. And especially if there's a deterministic answer and a good training set to create a good answer. And so I think that's where we're really seeing an extension of search's capabilities. And for us, let's talk about opportunity, right? Today, you really need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars of investable assets to be worth a financial advisor's time. And so we think that's going to change in the future. We think that a generative AI can be made by a company that has first-party data on the user, that has house views, that has real-time marketplace data, and we can train on those data sets to really lower the cost of providing that bespoke one-on-one financial guidance for users. So that's kind of the opportunity that we think about. So all in all, it's super early, and we're really taking a hard look at how we can serve our audience in more ways.
Really interesting, Tim. Obviously something that you have been thinking at some length about. To sort of go back to the earlier part of your answer, right now, if I went to ChatGPT and typed in that question that you mentioned, right? How can I get a personal loan if my credit score is yada, yada, yada? It's going to give me an answer, right? And it's going to give me an answer maybe using in part data from Nerdwallet, right? And other sites. So to your point, do you think that consumers, and again, it's very early, I realize, but do you think consumers will care if it's, will they trust ChatGPT itself? In other words, without having to go to a Nerdwallet?
Yeah, so I think about this in two ways, right? First, the answer is going to say, well, it's going to really depend on your financial situation. We encourage you to consult a tax advisor or a financial expert, and here are some parameters to think about, right? And the way it's giving that answer is it's reading a bunch of different websites and trying to train and find the best model. there's not citations, right? So as you receive that answer, you're thinking, gosh, like, how do I think about this? And that's where people, I think, really generally, no matter if it's a financial search or even reading about a football game and the results, really repeatedly turn to an influencer or a brand that they trust with their interpretation of what's happening. And I think that's not going to change. I think the real opportunities really are around things like customer service or the really bespoke one-on-one type of questions that they can do really well in. For example, in computer programming, right, there's often a lot of deterministic right answers, and then there's a natural language syntax that it can be very adaptive to. So it's going to be really good at those kinds of things.
Tim, here at Yahoo Finance, just like you folks over at Nerdwallet, we're content creators in many respects. You know, the changes that are happening to search engines and are going to happen even further, is that changing how you approach writing content? And do you see more opportunities to better serve these search engines and ultimately make more money?
Yeah, not a huge change for us. You know, our North Star is really to be super helpful, to be very digestible, to empower consumers with great answers. And so, of course, we want to address all the commonly asked money questions, and there's really no change there. We really think about our content team as subject matter experts, right? They spend their time on everything from media to TikTok to maybe they'll be training some of these models one day, right? So that part isn't going to change.
Tim, good to catch up with you. Thanks for being here. Tim Chen, Nerdwallet founder and CEO. Appreciate it.